Get ready for comedy,
Elmo's horny.
politics,
The gay spin on the story was like, Queen Elizabeth fucking loves us.
pop culture,
I'm not a sports fan. I don't follow this shit.
sexual harassment of celebrity guests,
And you are always welcome in my apartment in New York City. And by my apartment, I mean my bed.
and poetry.
Hotter than Vesuvius, more well endowed than the Mastodon.
It's the Adam Sank Show on Derek and Romaine 2.0. And for the next hour, you're in the ass.
Fuck yeah.
And now,
The one, the only, Adam Sank!
bottom.
Yes, it's me, ladies and gentlemen. It's Adam Sank here with another new episode of the Adam Sank Show. Today is Sunday, May 27th. We are celebrating Memorial Day weekend, and just in time, it's our Best of Ass Memorial Day special. Yes! Come on, everyone. Such enthusiasm. Yes, such enthusiasm here in the studio. You guys, we are going to be recapping some of the best guest segments that we've had over the past 6 months since the year is just about half over. And we've really had some tremendous guests. But first, I want to welcome my guest co-host for this special. It is the one and only Mr. Joey DeGrandis.
Hello, ass listeners. Good to be back.
Welcome back,
Yes,
Joey.
yeah.
To remind everyone, Joey has a birth defect. What do you call it?
A skill.
A special skill.
Special skill.
He has highly autobiographical recall. He can remember days of his life in great detail. And also his brain works like a giant calendar. For example, Joey, what day of the week was Memorial Day in 1985?
Trick question.
It doesn't work that way.
It's like saying, what day was February 30th in 1985?
Okay, so I have a better question. When was the last time you were on the ass?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, last time I was in the ass, on the ass, was
A little bit of both. Let's go both.
February 18th. That was President's Day weekend.
Okay, and when was the last time you was inside
3
his
months
ass?
ago. I mean,
I don't think Joey's ever been inside my ass.
Oh, hey.
So anyway, Memorial Day in 1985.
Yes. Well, to kick off the show, and by the way, this is JB, of course, with us, our associate producer,
Hi, JB.
running the board and chiming in with his amazing comments. I want to start this show by telling both of you and all my listeners 12 things you never knew about Memorial Day.
Okay.
I can't remember what website I found this on. It may have been BuzzFeed, but I actually didn't know any of these things. We should also say that Memorial Day is, of course, when we commemorate those service people who have lost their lives fighting for our country. And I want to give a special shout out this year to trans service people, those who have served and lost their lives, and those who are still serving, because they are brave and courageous and amazing. Yes, you should applaud for them, JB. And they're facing a lot of bullshit right now, courtesy of the Trump administration. So I just want to give a shout out to them and say thank you so much for your service, and to all service people.
Thank you for your
Honestly.
service. Yeah.
But
We
here's
appreciate you.
Yes, but here are 12 things you didn't know about Memorial Day. When it first debuted, it was immediately after the Civil War, and it was called Decoration Day, which sounds like a gay holiday.
just
Yeah,
gonna
that
say.
sounds real gay.
For interior designers. No, it's flowers.
candle.
People laid flowers on the graves of those who had died in the Civil
Oh,
War.
like to decorate them with flowers.
Yes.
Oh,
It was
I
an-
see Decoration Day. Okay.
It was initially designed just for the Civil War, and it stayed that way for more than 100 years.
Wow.
It didn't expand to casualties of other wars until after World War I. Number 3, its birthplace is a hot debate. There are about 24 towns across the U.S. who claim that they were the first to celebrate Memorial Day. The U.S. government says it was Waterloo, New York. But
New York.
come on, New York.
Come on, Waterloo.
But there are other people who say otherwise. The first Memorial Day was celebrated by freed slaves. Newly freed slaves in Charleston, South Carolina, held a ceremony for fallen Union soldiers. And that came before the Waterloo event, but experts don't consider it the first Memorial Day because it didn't directly lead to the federal holiday. Basically,
They're just saying that, because it was black people, it
That's
doesn't
right.
count.
That's
Shady heifers. You know what? I'm
That's
done.
exactly right.
Done with life.
The date of the holiday was chosen for its weather, because it would be a time when both the North and the South would have flowers in bloom.
It's a pretty balmy time.
It's a beautiful
time.
day for a holiday, I have to say. The first Memorial Day was just as big as today's. In 1868, 5,000 people decorated graves at Arlington National Cemetery, and that's the same number of people who visit Arlington now on Memorial Day.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Unchanged all those years.
Yeah.
It wasn't always the last Monday of May. In fact, until 1971, when it became an official federal holiday, it was May 30th, regardless of what day of the week that was. And then they passed what was called the Uniform Monday Holiday Act, which said that all federal holidays had to be celebrated on a Monday so that we could all have 3-day weekends.
Yeah.
Yay.
Come on, 3-day
And
weekends.
immortalize the Memorial
Maybe.
Day cookout and the beach
Yeah.
day.
That's
and
so
the-
cute.
Yeah. I think that was probably a good decision.
Here's
One
some-
decision we made smartly.
Yes, the last time the federal
Yeah.
government passed a good law.
Right?
The flag, if you're flying your flag at half staff, it should not stay that way all day. It should only stay at half staff until noon and then go to full staff until sundown, just like
Hi-yo.
Joey does.
Yes,
It's like
Joe.
a half day of mourning and a half day of celebrating. That's
Yeah.
what that sounds like.
It just sounds like a half penis. You like half the day your penis is lip, and then at the rest of the day a full extent.
It's very respectful. Taps was originally a song that they played to say goodnight. It was a bedtime song written in 1862, and then eventually it became a funeral song. A poem. Wait, what? I don't understand this one. Oh, so apparently you're supposed to scatter poppies on graves. That's the official flower of Memorial Day, is
Oh, the poppy
poppies,
flower.
red
Right.
poppies.
Okay.
And that started from a poem written by Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae. He was a Canadian who wrote In Flanders Field.
Fields.
You know this,
I read
Joey?
that in school. I was gonna say. We read that for Memorial Day in school.
Memory
never
expert
heard of
hitting it. You didn't even say the full thing. You just said part of the word and where it's from, and he got it.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
it goes
So
to show
jealous.
that that is like the Memorial Day poem, right?
Yeah.
He
apparently.
wrote it after World War I
And
in Belgium, in Flanders.
Here's where Joey's memory finally shines. We've been waiting. Been on the
Right?
ass many times.
So long
Been waiting for a demo.
in a game show, it was no use.
There are bikers, motorcyclers, who celebrate this holiday every year. It started in 1988. They call themselves the Rolling Thunder. Wait, am I getting this right? This is really terribly written. You'll have to look this up yourself. Okay. On Memorial Day in 1988, about 2,500 motorcycles rode through Washington, D.C., calling the government to account for POWs and those missing in action. By 2017, the annual Rolling Thunder First Amendment demonstration run, that's what it's called,
That's a mouthful. Wow.
had grown to 900,000 riders.
Oh shit.
So it's cool that they do that.
That is cool. Yeah. It's a
And
lot. A lot of
The
people.
last fact is the shittiest fact and the one that's going to piss everyone off. Some states have their own Confederate Memorial Days, in which Confederate flags are planted next to the graves of Confederate soldiers. Georgia observes Confederate Memorial Day, marking the anniversary of the end of the Civil War. Southern states that celebrate it also include Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, North Carolina, and South Carolina. And that's racist.
It's the same day.
Yeah, they do it on that day.
Oh man.
That's how I feel about that.
They can't just be like, we're going to honor our dead. They have to be like, and we fought for slavery to
Yeah.
stay.
It's
Yes.
this whole like revisionist history thing, you know? This whole
Horrible.
Great.
Yeah, it's
So those are 12 things you didn't know about Memorial Day, and I hope that wherever you are listening to this, you are having a fabulous, safe, no drunk driving, lots of pot smoking Memorial Day weekend.
Hi-yo.
And now I want to look back at some of our favorite guests of this past year. And Joey, here's an interesting fact: you've only hosted co-hosted two episodes this year, and both those episodes are featured in today's special because having you here makes for a great segment.
Aw.
So the first one was when you were co-hosting, and we had two Broadway stars, Jen Cody and Hunter Foster. They're neighbors of mine. They live across the hall, and they've both been in tons of Broadway shows. Hunter is a Tony Award nominee. Jen is a voiceover artist who's been in Disney films. They're just amazingly
I
talented
remember them
people.
now.
Yeah.
They were so
Okay.
fun.
They're cool. Very fun. Yeah.
So I asked them how they met, and we also talked about when Jen was in the Broadway musical Taboo, the Boy George musical. So here's how the segment went down. What I have always wondered, and I don't know the answer to this, is how you two met. And I want to guess that it was maybe when you both were touring with cats.
That's it.
Yes.
And I don't mean the musical. I mean you were touring with actual
we had
cats.
a bunch of cats in the back of a car.
On a Winnebago.
No, you were both touring. Was it a national tour?
It was. I had been out first. Hunter joined the company. And I think you're uber talented, honey, but you know what he was not good at? The makeup.
Oh. You had to do your own.
You had to do your own makeup. And so he would always look like a stroke victim. Like there was always one side that was just a little off.
Strokey cat.
But I fell in love with that. Yeah, strokey cat.
And you guys were super young, right? You were both out of...
We were young, yes.
It was my first job.
It was my first job.
Yeah.
Right out of college.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty fucking great. Your first job's a national tour.
Yeah, and we're still together. That's the
Well,
great part.
that's crazy.
Like,
So I'm imagining that your eyes met and you said, "Oh my God, Hunter's the only straight guy here.
Yes.
I'm getting him."
Yes.
Is that what
happened?
happened?
That was actually the exact thing. I'd been out on the road a year, and I was like, that's the straight one. I'm taking
But she had to beat out. There was someone else.
Wow, look at a beat out. It was a competition.
Yeah, it was a competition because there was another girl that was there who was
woman.
No, she was a young woman. She was, but she didn't seem like a woman. I mean, she was.
Yeah, she did.
She was a woman.
Were you
Yeah, 'cause she was a
micro-cheating,
woman.
Hunter?
What?
But she was.
There was micro-cheating.
Yeah.
She was tall, leggy, Irish.
She had an accent.
And she had an
Oh.
accent.
That's all I'm saying about that.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
ridiculous.
They'll get you.
I love that.
Accents
I don't
will
know
get
this gentleman's name, but yawning.
JB
JB.
is our associate producer.
JB, you're yawning during this story.
What?
It's just
Don't
boring.
mind me. Don't mind me.
Heterosexuality bores him.
All right, here's the deal. I'm going to make it a little more racy for you. So I had to like scandalously get this guy, right? And I'm going against the leggy Irish girl with the huge breasts and the blonde hair. So
We should mention that Jen, while beautiful, is rather petite.
I'm very small. So I called ahead to the next hotel we were going to, and I found out what room he was in. And I got the room across the hall.
Oh my
And-
goodness.
I didn't know
Scandalous.
this till a couple years ago, so I didn't
Yeah.
realize that I was being stalked.
You
And-
little
Yeah.
stalker.
I
Little
would
bit,
listen
little
at
bit.
my door in the morning, and when I'd hear him leave, I would go down because I knew you're having breakfast in the hotel lobby, of course, because that's the only place on tour. And I would walk into the room like 3 minutes after he had sat down.
You
and I'd be like,
conveniently timed it.
hey.
Yeah.
And he'd go, oh, you want to sit? I'm like, sure, that'd be great. So I kind of stalked him.
You crafty little slut.
She did.
What
And-
happened to the Irish woman? Is she still in the business?
No, I don't
know
think
where
so.
she is.
She went back to Ireland and is now working as a barmaid.
I saw her on the side of the street coming here today.
But coincidentally, the way I actually grabbed him and pulled him in is that he was laying by the pool, and I went and laid next to him in a thong.
Oh my goodness.
She pulled out all
Hashtag
the guns.
Yeah, Jen has a fantastic ass. We've actually had contests, and Jen's the only one whose ass can beat mine.
Well, he parades it a lot.
Well, we have a picture of you in the assless jeans.
Assless
I think
chaps.
it was Nose Jeans. It was
Oh, was
assless
it?
jeans about 10 years
They
ago.
were jeans.
It was
came
a
to
New Year's
ask if it was
Eve.
okay.
I think I was
New
high.
Yeah,
and I
I'm
just
sure. I'm
showed
sure
up at
you
your
were
door.
high.
No, but you took your pants down, and he was in his assless jeans.
We
We
took
took
a
side by
picture.
side pictures of.
I need to see that picture
have to
because
find it.
my ass was probably at its peak then. It's definitely been on the decline ever since.
You guys are
I
really
still think
close
your
as
ass is
neighbors.
wonderful.
Well, thank you, JB. Are you talking to
JB's
me or
awake.
Jen?
JB's awake.
Both parties.
So sweet.
You needed to spice it up a little.
So back to you guys. So you guys were in Cats, and then somehow you both wound up in Grease on Broadway, correct?
Yes.
How did that happen? I mean, if can I just say, it seems like you had an immediate success as actors, which is not the norm in any way.
I mean, right. I mean, I think it's difficult. It was especially difficult back then because there weren't as many shows. I think there were like 8 Broadway shows.
Yes.
I had terrible luck when I first got here. I didn't get anything. I was just going after audition after audition.
For what,
running
a
out of
month?
money. No, for
you were
like a
in your early
while.
20s when you were in Grease.
Well, it's like you get discouraged because you go in like 40 auditions and you're like don't even get anything, and then you're like, oh God, am I going to be able to make it? And then it literally happened within like 2 weeks that I got cats in Greece. I could.
Oh, you got them at the same time?
I got them within 2 weeks of each other.
And Jen, you were you in Greece at the same time he was?
Yeah, so I came back. I did Cats in New York, and then I left Cats.
So I'm sorry. So Cats was your first Broadway
Yes.
musical.
Yes.
And Grease was yours, Hunter.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I auditioned for the first National of Grease that was going out, and I got that. And the first 4 weeks I was out on the road, the girl playing my part in New York gave her notice.
What part was that?
Cha-Cha. And they brought me back in. So we had gone through this whole thing that I'm going to go away for a while. It's going to be terrible. And then it was 4 weeks, and I got to come back. So.
And what were you playing, Hunter?
I was Roger,
Who's Roger?
the Mooner.
Hashtag ass.
Oh.
Just
Hashtag
keep going
ass.
back
Both
to
of your
hashtag
asses
ass.
were exposed
Oh yeah.
And you're the best dancer at St. Bernadette's.
with the
best
worst
dancer.
reputation.
The worst reputation.
See, you
It
do know
fits.
some
I
shit.
know some,
Good
I
for
know
you,
some.
Joey.
musical
You just
theater.
earned your gay card.
There you go.
Was this the Rosie O'Donnell production of Grease?
Yes.
Do you have any nightmare stories about her?
I have to say, so I've done, I think, 7 shows with Rosie at this point. I love her. I will
Good to
never
hear.
say a bad thing about her. I think that, yes, her mouth gets her in trouble, but she is passionate and loyal to a fault.
And she cared about all of us. Like she put us first. Like even though she was the star of the show, she wanted to make sure that we were all taken care of. Like she really cared about us.
You know, she's one of these people in show business where half the stories I hear about her are like yours, and the other half are like, oh my God, she's a nightmare. So I just wonder if it's situational. Like if maybe when she's in theater, that's where she's happiest, and so she's
Yeah, but I think
in a good place.
I think you know what it is. I think she passionately wants things to be done the right way. Where like most people are political about things. They're like, oh, I'll roll with it. She'll stand up and say, no, you can't do it this way. You
And she
can't
doesn't,
act this way.
I don't think she has a lot of skills in dealing with it. I think she knows when she's angry, and instead of just trying to figure out how to deal with it, she just doesn't.
Yeah,
She's just
and
like,
she just
"Rah."
says what she thinks.
I'm the same way. They were so much fun. I have to have them back.
They're great, yeah.
Great guests. Other great guests that we had when Joey was co-hosting were comedians Joanne Filan and Irene Bremis.
The straight lady and the lesbian.
Yes, they're such a good duo.
Yeah.
They were riot. Oh, man.
We
They're
talked
right.
to them. When we had them on the show. This was on March 4th. We had just done a story about this Girl Scout who set up her Girl Scout cookie stand in front of a legal pot
Yeah, the
dispensary.
smart Girl Scout girl. Yeah. She's smart.
And we were talking about what a great idea that was. So we
Go right to your target market.
I mean,
Yeah,
Go
just
right there.
So we-
especially with the potheads.
we talked to Joanne and Irene about what they thought of this, and we also got into a semi-serious discussion about sexual harassment in stand-up comedy and in show business in general. So take a listen to the episode from March 4th with Joanne Filan and Irene Bremis. You like Girl Scout cookies?
Love them.
What's your favorite?
I'm a Samoa's guy.
Me too. I love the
Love
Samoas.
Smoes. They're the best.
I can't eat Girl Scout cookies anymore because I'm vegan. But when I did eat them, Samoas are the most delicious. But anyway, a girl in San Diego, a Girl Scout, decided she found the perfect place to sell Girl Scout cookies, and that was outside of a marijuana dispensary.
Good call.
So she set up, and that's audio of some of her customers. She set up her table outside the pot store and sold more than 300 boxes in 6 hours. Oh my God! Raising more than $1,500. While some have praised the plucky scout for figuring out where the demand would probably be, the Girl Scouts organization has been wrestling with how to handle marijuana-adjacent sales as more states have legalized the drug. You know, it's legal in California. Girls who wheel their cookies in these carts can travel basically wherever they want as long as their parents are okay with it. But there are stricter rules about where to set up these booths or stands. There's no nationwide policy for this. A spokesman for the Girl Scouts said it's kind of a community issue. The girl was selling her cookies outside of Urban Leaf, which posted a photo of her on their Instagram account. The founder of Urban Leaf said he was definitely surprised by the controversy that it created. I say she's a fabulous entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yes, she is.
Like you
That
said,
is
she
the
knows-
best community to go to is potheads after they are high. They want some cookies. I know I want some cookies.
She knows where the demand is.
Munchies.
Except
As
the,
Adam said, yeah.
the thing is, when I used to smoke pot, I would eat a lot of things like cookies and chips, but then I wanted to like drink something cold. I feel like if you have to have a lemonade stand set up there as well.
Or milk. Imagine just cookies and milk.
I don't know if I want milk when I'm high. Maybe a milkshake.
Oh, a nice milkshake, yes.
Now
Definitely a milkshake.
Now I kind of want to get high.
We could totally do that after the show.
Can we get high?
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of things that make us high, our guests today are both making their return to the ass. They made a splash back on the show in September. They are both hilarious stand-up comedians and two of my favorite people. Please give a warm ass welcome to Joanne Filan and Irene Bremis. Come on, audience. Welcome back, ladies.
Good to be here, sweetie.
You're our first return guests.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And no one else has been likable or interesting.
Yeah,
enough to have back.
this is hard to beat, sweetie. You know.
Oh yeah,
It's a
Big
great
time.
combo.
It is
you
a
got,
good
You got
combo.
the lesbo.
Yeah.
And the
representing.
transsexual.
You got the trans
Yeah.
woman. No, you're
Caitlyn Jenner, just a little better, right?
you don't look like Caitlyn
I
Jenner.
know I don't. Someone fucking did tell me I did look like her, and I got a little upset. Don't take
You're
this the
much
wrong
prettier.
way. They started the sentence.
You know,
with.
Caitlyn looks
Thank
fabulous.
you so much for.
Caitlyn looks good for a woman of
Oh my God.
67,
No, actually, she does look
however
good.
old she
I
is.
like to say that Caitlyn looks like me. Okay, I was here first.
She,
Fuck you, Caitlyn.
she stole your look.
Better than Bruce.
Bitch
Bruce
stole
looked
your
like
look.
a train wreck.
Well, now we know why. Because
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
sort of trying to transition, but not let anyone
With
know
like a
about
frying pan to the face. Like, how was that going to help?
it. Wow. Joanne going for the
Go
kill.
for it.
Getting a
Go
little-
for it, Joanne.
Never
little
seen this
angry,
side
sorry.
of you, Joanne.
Neither have I, but I'm loving it. Wow.
Have either of you were either of you ever a Girl Scout?
I was.
I was a I
brownie.
know it's going to be hard to believe, but I was actually a Boy Scout. I know. I swear to God.
I
It was
thought that was
a-
only recently that they started letting
Yeah,
girls be
they
Boy
just
Scouts.
started letting that.
It wasn't like a formal Boy Scout, but it was like an explorer group back in school for like scuba diving, and it was affiliated with the Boy Scouts. So I was a Boy Scout. Like I got a letter saying that I had to bring all my canned goods up to the local like ShopRite and sell them out front, or I don't know what the hell it was. It was.
Were you the only girl?
No, there were other girls in the explorer group, but
The Explorer group sounds like a place where
I
you
know.
experiment with your sexuality.
ironically, I was in the explorer group, and yet I've never done anal. Right?
There you go.
Right,
As we established
that's like a
last
callback
time.
to the
If you'll remember the last time we had Joanne on, not only has she never done anal, she's never tasted anal.
Right. So we brought a sample here today.
Oh, wonderful! Is
What the
that
fuck?
what
It's
I've
like
been
a
drinking?
Is there a segue?
Is there a new flavor of Girl Scout
We're
cookie?
bringing in a Girl
Here we
Scout.
go. Enjoy.
Now, but you were a Girl Scout, Irene.
I was. Now I know that they're doing. I was a brownie. I was a
Oh.
brownie, and
Those are the
I was
really
surrounded.
young girls.
The little
the little young girls, and I was surrounded by girls. I like the idea of a co-ed Girl Scout now. Only I'm
Sure.
afraid the boys might grab them by the cookies. Right?
Oh,
You got to watch out for that.
exactly.
You never know what happens with boys in the Girl Scouts.
Joey, were you in any scouting group?
I was a Cub Scout, so I guess kind of like the equivalent of a
Yeah.
brownie.
Is it?
I was jealous of the Cub
Little
Scouts
boys.
because they wore those little pink
What's the
sashes around
difference
their
between
neck.
the Cub
I
Scout and a
know.
brownie? I feel like brownie, like
Well, they're
I don't
boys or
think
girls.
we learned. I know. Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
Like young when I was a little
they-
boy. I was
Cub
like 9
Scouts
or
are
10.
are male brownies.
They're male brownies.
I always
Okay.
loved their shirts.
yeah, they had great little
And the
uniforms.
scarves.
They
I
had
just
the
remember the
little-
pink scarf.
The handkerchiefs
Yep.
or whatever
Yeah.
they
Yep,
are.
yep,
those-
I
yeah.
always was jealous of that. My mom thought that those groups were all like Hitler Youth groups, so I was not allowed.
Well,
in them.
they are, sweetie. She's got a point. Now, did you have to sell cookies, or was that just a girl thing? I feel like I don't remember boys selling cookies.
We never did the cookies. We did did the Salvation Army outside the local shop, right?
You
But it's a good question, Irene. How do the Boy Scouts raise money?
They were altruistic, and the girls were pushing fucking trans fat, I guess. And
I
those-
guess so.
The girls had to
damn
like make the
cookies.
money, and the boys just coasted in their fucking
Work hard.
canoes.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I
basically.
was? I was in a group that probably doesn't exist anymore, or if it does, it has a different name. This was the 70s.
It wasn't the Hitler Youth, was it?
No, I was an Indian guide.
No way. What is this? I love it.
awesome.
These were for really young boys. This is when I was like 6 or 7. And we, it was very Native American themed. We had like feathers, we wore like a headdress and
That's
and
very racist.
It was so
now.
racist.
So
and-
horrifying. What
and
next?
We all had to adopt Indian names. I'm not making this up.
Oh my God, get out of here. You didn't believe Joanne's story about being a...
So my name, which was given to me, was
Oh God!
Oh God! Here we
Little Running Tongue.
Oh God! Look, and then you wonder
Because I
why
never
you're
shut
gay.
the fuck up.
Is that what it's for?
I mean, it sounds like someone who does a lot of cunnilingus, but no,
Yeah.
it was because I never shut up. And then my father, who was a pediatrician, was Chief Say-ah.
Nice.
So it was real racist. And I
Very
think
racist.
if Indian guides exist now, I'm sure it's called something else.
Yes.
Man, but they were racist. I remember being in high school. We had listen to this one. We had a slave day in fucking high school.
way.
Yeah, we did, and I'm not the only high school. Yamanika Saunders was talking about it too. In Virginia.
What
yeah.
would Slave Day consist of?
You buy somebody and you make them do whatever the fuck you want them to do.
Was it sort of like an anti, like this is
Was
how
it to
not
teach
to
you
live?
about slavery?
Yeah.
No, we're
teach you
making
how to
this to I
spend
think it
money
was
good?
crazy. But Yamanika Saunders, do you know who she is? She's a comic, right?
yes.
She
Hilarious
said
comedian.
hilarious, one of my favorites. She said that the same thing in her high school too. Right?
And so what was it? What was the point?
The point is that you just buy somebody and then you just make them like you slave them around.
But where would the money go to raise money for someone, for the school?
I
just
don't
go to
really
the
know.
person?
Probably like some fucked up place. Like it wasn't anything altruistic, or else I would remember. You know what I mean? It might have been for like for the school dance, which is not that important
Well,
to
certainly not
debase
enough to.
people.
I mean,
know?
I would have
I am
liked to have
highly
been a
offended.
slave.
Yeah.
JB is offended.
I am highly offended. I did not know
Yeah.
this existed, but if
Yeah,
this
it did, and
existed,
I honestly,
I'm offended.
Yeah, and you should be. I didn't. Not only did it exist in high school, in my school in high school, but it also exist. Like Yamanika said that she had it in her school too.
Wow.
What
Yeah.
the actual fuck is wrong with people?
They're fucking
Well,
idiots,
where did
sweetie.
you go to school?
That's what I'm talking
you go to
about.
high
Lexington in Massachusetts.
And where did Yamanika go to school?
She went in Virginia.
she's from- I think
She's
she's
from.
from-
Wow.
No,
thought-
Maryland. She went to Maryland.
Yeah, she went
to
Baltimore.
Maryland, in Baltimore. Yeah.
Massachusetts. Wow.
That's cray cray. Well, I know nowadays I see these stories on the news once in a while about these white teachers who give like slavery themed assignments and they always get in deep shit for it as well. They should like
Yeah,
let's not play with
exactly.
slavery
Please
at all.
let's not
Yeah.
do that.
Just
yeah.
teach it, explain what happened.
Right.
We don't. There's no role playing necessary.
No.
Tell
I
people that was wrong for it to happen in the first place and move on.
Exactly.
Don't actually
Please
live it.
do.
don't have a slave auction. There's been actual. I've
Please
heard of
don't
these
do
slave
that, but
auctions,
yeah,
but
yeah.
but that was to make an educational point, a bad one. But but what you're talking about is just like some fucked up thing. We didn't have that in my school, but I would
You
not
being
have,
an Indian guy
I
isn't
was an
that
Indian
much
guy.
better
Pretty
either.
much,
But
yeah.
I wouldn't have minded being a slave to some of the guys in my high
I'm
school,
sure, bitch. But this is outside the bedroom.
But,
To be Chief Glory Hole.
Yes, that would be.
it's my new Indian name. Chief sucks a lot.
Yeah.
So the last time you guys were here, I realized I looked at the calendar, and literally like the week or two after you were here, that's when the Harvey Weinstein thing happened.
Oh yeah.
So it
Yeah.
wasn't even on the radar when
Yeah.
you were here.
Oh,
and
it wasn't. Oh God, I
was
feel
early
like
hard to
October.
believe, right?
Yeah.
So
Hard
now
to-
that you're back, I need to get your thoughts on this, and specifically, I'm interested as women in the biz. Have you had any fucked up, crazy experiences with men, or in Joanne's case, women, acting inappropriately toward you? You know, sexual misconduct, harassment, this sort of thing.
Do you want to go first?
Mine's no. You know, honestly, I mean, guys pretty much avoid me like the plague.
Yeah.
And there's honestly have not run into enough women in that kind of position that there's been any issue.
I have a hard time imagining women, even
Taking
gay women,
advantage of that situation.
sexually harassing other women. I
Yeah.
you don't hear about it, and it's hard. It's really hard. I'm sure
Why
it
is this
exists.
so
It has to
unique to
exist.
Well, I used to slap everybody on the ass when I used to teach at Lucille Roberts. Sure, why not? I was grabbing everybody by the. I'm sorry, is that right?
Yes, queen.
But that's true. I mean, I've done things that I wouldn't do now. Because
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
so woke about this issue.
Right. Although
now.
your ass is never safe with me. Just
Well,
so
I
we can
hope
throw
not.
that out on the
I
table.
hope that my ass is always there
The
for
two
the
of
taking.
you have very fine asses.
Thank you.
Well,
We
thank
talked
you,
about this
Joanne,
last
for
time.
Squeezing my ass. in
Just
it. I
wanted
love
to get that out
yeah,
there.
let's get it out there.
We always
That's
wind
the
up
thing.
talking about
Yeah.
ass eating.
Yes,
Sure.
well,
Yes.
you know, the show's called Ass. You have a very
Yeah.
fine ass, you know, and you like to eat ass. What else is
No,
there to talk about?
no.
Oh, no, you like your ass eaten. I'm sorry.
If
That's
I
right.
will allow it, it's
Yeah.
not my favorite.
You're
But
just needy.
but Irene, what is you're constantly working with men.
Uh-huh.
There's drinking at these comedy clubs.
Right.
Have you had like a situation where you're just like, ugh?
Oh God, I just hope my name doesn't start trending on Twitter. Irene too. She grabbed my dick. It was really awful.
You're the harasser.
Well, you know what? Listen, I don't think I've ever had that. If I, men are always, men, women, you know how it is. I don't really have any interesting, really crazy stories about sexual harassment. Of course, guys always say off-colored things and they'll say demeaning things, but I'm also like that as a person, so I'll just say it back.
Right.
And I think I walked past a construction site and didn't get anything. I got crickets, and I was very fucking upset about that. Let me just throw that out there, okay?
Love those girls. They are welcome back anytime on the ass.
They're super fun.
Yeah. We're always laughing in here with them. Naturally, they are.
Back on February 4th, we had the one and only Derek Hartley co-hosting with us of Derek and Romaine fame.
Oh, you mean the one who likes to add his own clips to your show?
He does. Yes. Thank you, JB, for reminding me. Derek arranged for a sound clip that I was not aware of to play in the middle of the show, and I flipped out because I thought JB had hit the wrong button. I was like, why am I hearing myself? This is crazy. So, yes, we won't play that. But Derek was a fun co-host, and our guest on one of his episodes was Rachel Butera, who is an amazing voiceover artist and impressionist. She does the best impressions of celebrities. And the thing I love about her is she does people that no one else does. I asked her to give us her Jane Fonda and her Jamie Lee Curtis. Oh. And you got to listen to this because the impressions are uncanny. Take a listen. One of the things I love about you is, you do a lot of impressions that other people try to do, like Wanda and Joan Rivers. But you also do people that no one would ever think to impersonate. And the other day, I heard you on Facebook doing a Jane Fonda that was so completely dead on. Can I talk to Jane Fonda for a little bit?
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Jane, the right wing accuses you of being a traitor to your country for traveling to Hanoi back in the 70s. What do you have to say to them?
Absolutely not. If they had taken time to really research and listen to some of the things that I've done, they'd know that that's absolutely not true. Just not true at all.
It's so amazing. How do you create an impression? How does it walk me through the process?
There is no process. I can just do it. I don't know how. I don't know why. In fact, I went to go get my vocal cords looked at the other day, and I was watching it on the video. The doctor was showing me as the tube was down my throat, and I'm looking at these gross vocal cords, and I'm like, how do those allow me to sound like Jane Fonda or Wanda Sykes or Holly Hunter, or how? It is the most mystifying thing I've ever encountered, and I couldn't give you an answer.
You've just always been able to do this.
Always been able to do it since I could talk.
When I try to, I'm certainly no impressionist, but when I try to impersonate people as part of my stand-up, I always try to picture their face and try to make my face look like their face. Do you do that, or does that not even play into it?
I do that if they've got something like Holly Hunter. She talks out of the side of her mouth, and she's got this weird little speech impediment, but her lips go to the side too. It's almost like she's got a little orange stuck under her bottom lip. And when you do her voice, you have to do that. And I'm doing it right now. You look like you have a stroke.
Right.
So it's I do it, but I do it automatically. I don't stop to think how does Judy Kaling look when she's talking? What does her face look like when she's talking? I don't really think about it. I just sort of instinctively do it. So yeah, I don't know.
This is Derek Hartley. I'm co-hosting with Adam. You're over the phone, so you have no idea that I'm even here. But is there a quality that you look for in somebody that you do impressions of? Do you see these various celebrities and you think, oh man, I can't wait to wrap my voice around, whoever this is because of the way that they speak or, sort of what their personality is?
Yeah, voices have always been funny to me. Funny voices instantly catch my attention. And when I worked in a corporate office, I was making fun of everybody because, in offices there's so many characters and stuff. But yeah, it's really just if I hear a voice that's funny or odd in some way, or they have a strange manner of speech, I can't help but just try and start to imitate it. because I find it fascinating. And most people don't have a lot to their voice. They have people are like, oh, do me, do me. And I have to say, like, well, there's nothing to do. Like, you don't have any quirkiness to your voice. It's just a normal voice.
But see, that's how I feel about Jane Fonda. I can't think of what I would do to try to sound like Jane Fonda. But when you do her, it sounds like she's coming through the phone, like it's the real Jane.
Well, she's got she says her CH is really hard, like a trunk. So it's very well, I used to do it in 9 to 5. Me and my brother used to watch 9 to 5, and like her ex-husband would show up, and she'd be like, "Dick, let's have lunch," and we would go lunch like really hard.
And you can do Lily Tomlin too.
Well, it's kind of hard. She's older now, and it's a little bit different. But early Lily, there was a lot of air in her voice, and she would smile a lot, and squint her eyes and stuff. But I feel like that also sort of sounds like, who's that actress with the big lips who's in all the Christopher Guest movies?
Jennifer Coolidge. Yeah, hers is a little higher. She's got like a high.
Yeah, maybe she's a little bit higher, but she's also got that pinched, sort of airy, weird voice to her. And then you got like Jennifer Tilly, who's got the air, but she's also got the kind of rasp to her. So it's just really, I don't know how it happened.
Can you do Dolly Parton, Rachel?
She's really hard. She's so high. I know the cutest little Italian restaurant. Just a hop, skip, and a jump from here. It's not very good, but I've tried it, and it's not great.
Is it just? Do you feel like she's too high? She's out of your range?
Yeah, I mean, I can go high, but she's high and very nuanced too with the way she pronounces things.
She also,
every once in a while,
she laughs while she's speaking. There's a laughter. That's part of everything she says.
Yeah. No wonder everybody around here thinks I'm some dime store floozy. They think I'm throwing the ball. I mean,
it's good.
There's an essence.
It's better than most. You were on Instagram the other day, and you put on this crazy red wig that one of your fans had sent you, and you did the Jamie Lee Curtis scene from Trading Places, where she explains to Dan Aykroyd how her being a hooker works. Can you do that little speech for us? Because it was so good.
Yeah, I know. Hamlet. He went crazy. She killed herself. Listen, this is not Shakespeare, Louis. I'm 26 years old. I'm from some miserable little mining town you probably never even heard of. All I've got in this whole big wide world is this body, this face, and what's up here. I didn't even think I sounded like I wasn't even trying
It's so
to
good.
imitate her.
It's really good.
Really? I was not even trying to imitate her. I just wanted to do the wig thing.
And then you also took your top off, and there was a moment of nudity in the video.
If only I had her tip. It was a nip slip, but somebody screenshotted it, and I sent it to Mr. Skin as if he wanted it.
Listen, you've got amazing tits. Most of your pictures on Facebook, you're showing your tits.
No, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's only in the bra. Once the bra comes off, it's like flat stretch mark pancake city. It's a horror show.
Rachel Butera from back on February 4th with Derek Hartley co-hosting. Not only did Derek co-host with me this past year, but Romaine co-hosted with me in what remains one of the most popular episodes of The Ass in terms of downloads. And we had on a great guest named Matthew Rettenmund. He is he's the guy behind the Boy Culture blog. He's a blogger and author, and he wrote like a 40,000 word article about the history of LGBTQ people on American television.
Spectacular.
LGBTQ characters, plots, people, storylines, references. He literally found every early reference to a gay thing, like from the 40s and 50s and 60s. It was such a great chat that we had with him, and this was back on March 25th. So here's just a piece of the conversation that Romaine and I had with Matthew Rettenmund about the gay history of American television. I'm looking at your list, and it suddenly occurs to me that 1994 was a huge year for LGBTQ people in terms of culture and specifically on television. Here's all the things that happened in 1994. Roseanne has a lesbian kiss with Mariel Hemingway. Ricky Vasquez comes out of the closet on My So-Called Life. Ross's Friends premieres, and Ross has this lesbian ex-wife who's with a female partner. Pedro Zamora comes out as gay and HIV positive on The Real World. I mean, these are all milestones.
Huge. Because this is when I was in high school, and that
Right?
was big shit.
What was it about that year? What happened to the culture at that point?
I really think it's about like looking at the whole list before, like leading up to that. It's like critical mass had finally settled in. Like it was finally, it had this momentum and it settled and it hit in that year. You're right. It's incredible that was all at one time, but there you get strength from other people doing things that you're not supposed to do. And so many people had sort of chipped away at it that it just kind of, I think it occurred to people at the same time, let's do this, let's go all out. And so you do see these things snowballing, you see them building on each other, and they're all huge moments. And they're all different, very different shows.
Yeah. I'm thinking of where we were. I'm thinking President Clinton had just been elected.
Well, Don't Ask, Don't Tell
Don't Ask, Don't Tell
very much in the news.
Right. One of the first things he did was try to drop the ban, end the ban on LGBTQ service members. He met huge resistance from both Republicans and Democrats in his own party, and then that resulted in the horrible Don't Ask, Don't Tell. But suddenly everyone's talking about gay people, and I think you have Hollywood responding to that with all of these characters and episodes.
Well, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Roseanne lesbian kiss episode was called Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It's funny, like when things are happening in the government and in news and you have to address it, I guess that also gives you an in on television to have to say something about it. Actually, one of the very first references to homosexuality in a news setting on TV was through the McCarthy hearings.
Oh, right.
Because they were just quoting what was being said.
And because during the McCarthy hearings, in addition to accusing, people of being communists, they would also accuse them of being homosexual.
Fairies.
But I think we're seeing the same thing that you're talking about with like the transgender community. We're
is.
seeing all these laws and all these things happening in government in relation to trans people, and we're also seeing an abundance of characters now on television where once upon a time we weren't seeing that.
Absolutely.
And throughout this list, there are countless, references to trans firsts. It was a little more difficult because you have to decide where you draw the line, because there's also a lot of drag used in humor, and some of those really do cross over and some of them don't. Some of them, like I didn't include Milton Berle, Uncle Milty.
Yeah, I was curious about that. Why didn't you?
In my mind, it seemed so clearly not to do, with gender and with like gender identity, that, and also it would have just been 5 times as long, because so many shows have done drag for a laugh,
Flip
for
Wilson,
a cheap laugh.
Milton Berle.
It's much more interesting when you get into the 90s and you see like RuPaul popping up on episodes, which I had forgotten about.
But we've mentioned this on the show before. At the time that Milton Berle was going on the most popular TV show in America in drag, actual men were being arrested for appearing in drag at local theaters and bars. So it was, we're such a fucked up time in our culture. It's like, it's okay when Milton does it, but if you do it, you're going to prison, faggot.
And then there were actual, drag queens who were making money and who were doing those appearances and were beloved. It's insane. Like there were several episodes with, a very famous, I'm trying to remember the name, very famous drag queen that was on Alfred Hitchcock. And you remember this episode where these nurses are all alone and there's some killer stalking pretty nurses, and spoiler alert, one of the nurses is a dude. And that's like this huge shocker that this is a man dressed as a woman. And this was a female impersonator. A man who in real life was married to a woman and never got arrested.
We're just about out of time, and I have to mention what I consider to be the seminal moments, and they basically end your list. One is Ellen coming out in 1997. Take a listen.
Why can't I say the word? I mean, why can't I just say... I mean, what is wrong? Why do I have to be so ashamed? I mean, why can't I just say the truth? I mean, be who I am. I'm 35 years old. I'm so afraid to tell people. I mean, Susan, I'm gay.
And then a year later, Will and Grace premieres.
And that's no accident. And it's funny because, Ellen and Sean Hayes was on an Ellen show recently, and they were joking back and forth, kind of giving each other a hard time. And he was teasing her that she had heard this show that wasn't as successful as Will and Grace. And she joked back, well, your show wouldn't have existed without mine.
That's right.
And he admitted it. He laughed,
And finally, Joey, no Best of Ass special would be complete without the queen herself, Bianca Del Rio. I love her so much. And she has twice been on the ass.
Has she ever been in the studio? Because I was only here the second time and she was on phone.
She's never been in studio because she is the busiest fucking person on earth. She is usually in another country. let alone in another state. And on the rare occasions that she comes back to New York, she's like doing back-to-back shows.
Yeah.
She performs every night of the year. But Bianca was kind enough to be our guest on the telephone back on January 21st. And what was really cool about this episode is, in addition to Bianca, Scott Lowell was my celebrity guest co-host from Queer as Folk. The amazing Scott Lowell, who is a personal friend of mine, dated my sister back in college.
I was super excited that whole show.
It was he did 2 episodes with us, but this is the one with Bianca, and we talked to her about what it was like to suddenly become extremely famous, as well as which country has the best dick. Here's what Bianca had to say. How many countries have you been in so far?
You know what's funny? It's quite insane, but I couldn't even keep track. I know my it sounds so grand to say my assistant, but my friend that I pay that works for me, he knows better than I do. But I think this year, at the end of the year, would be 6 continents that I would have been on. Wow. So it's quite wild that you're schlepping kind of everywhere. You know me, I say yes to every gig. I mean, I'm on the phone with you, but it's quite fascinating. This year in particular is my 3rd tour, and I've been fortunate enough to work with, in America, I work with AEG, which is a brilliant company, and with each year it gets bigger and bigger. So this year in America, we're doing 42 cities, and they're adding additional dates, and then there's another 13 in the UK, and then I'll be doing also other South Africa. I did Singapore, I did Hong Kong, I did Amsterdam. It's batshit crazy how many people are interested in drag in particular, as well as Drag Race. I mean, these are some of these places don't even get the show. So it's worked out favorable for me that over the years, because it's been like 4.5 years for me, that they're actually now catching up with my season, because they're like on season, 10, 9, I don't know, something like that. And so I'm season 6. So
right, they're watching it on like a stone television set.
Completely, which kind of matches my face. But yeah, very similar, very similar. But I mean, I'm just fascinated that many people are interested, especially globally. You don't expect that when you do a reality show in America,
right?
On a closed set. You're like, okay, a couple fags in San Francisco will watch me. Maybe my dykes back in New Orleans will watch. But I didn't think it would be this global at all.
So with all the countries you've been to, which country has the best dick?
You know what's funny is that you don't get to spend much time. Now, I have to tell you, Amsterdam, before I went to Amsterdam, someone said you're going to love Amsterdam and that people are really, really nice and that all the guys have huge dicks.
Huge.
And I thought, well, that's kind of ironic because in America, if you have a huge dick, you don't have to be nice.
Exactly.
So
that's why I'm so nice.
Is that what it is? Fucking pleasant. Amsterdam, I have to say, they're just free there. I mean, they can smoke weed on the street. Those people don't give a fuck, so it makes life a lot easier. I'm sure it's like that in Colorado now, but it's just one of those things where I think when you don't have any angst or any issues and you're just walking around with a joint, life, nothing shocks you. They're a little freer than most. So I would say Amsterdam is definitely the place where the action happens.
And I've heard
this. Let's face it, with my face, it looks better than a red light. Let's be honest.
Oh,
Much
please.
darker. Yeah.
You're gorgeous. Now, I always hear from drag queens that they get hit on when they're in drag and they don't want to be. Right? Like
that's the opposite for me.
You want to fuck when you're a dude.
Oh, totally. Yeah. There's nothing sexual about me being in drag. Have you seen me? On occasion you have somebody with a clown fetish, but it's definitely not something that I find sexual in the least. It's not amusing. Not to say, that I haven't passed out in makeup before and stranger things have happened, but it's definitely not a preference for me. God, no. I mean, that's horrible.
At this point, you have met pretty much every big celebrity.
Really?
You have. Please, I've seen you with Cher. If you've met Cher, you've met everyone. Which celebrity has been the biggest twat?
Well, from years ago, I had worked at a Broadway costume company. So over the years, that was like in New York, it's so normal to run into celebrities, so to speak. But when you work for a Broadway costume company, you meet several people and people that would come in and out. And as celebrities nowadays, everybody's a fucking celebrity, so there's not really that many people that are excited. Some are much nicer than most. But back in the day in the costume shop, I think the kindest I ever met was Angela Lansbury. And let's see, who was a cunt? Elaine Stritch was a hoot, who I loved. But I think the douchiest, which I had not experienced, but I had found out was there the week before me, was Raquel Welch.
Oh,
which is kind of amusing. You probably have to Google her. But usually the people with the least amount of talent are the biggest cunts. But that's probably about it. Everybody else is pretty good. And once again, it's also been shocking through social media how many celebrities are huge Drag Race fans. Wanda Sykes is a big fan of the show, and so is Neil Patrick Harris and I mean, there's tons of those people that you find through Twitter that are just praising the show and love everything about Audra McDonald, for Christ's sake. I mean, one of the kindest, nicest, most gorgeous people on the planet, and she fucking knows who I am. That's fucking crazy shit. So,
but you're at the same level of fame as them, if not beyond it. You have 1.2 million Instagram followers. That's fucking insane.
But what does that mean in real life? You know what I mean?
It means you sell out giant venues everywhere you go.
Well, I mean, I'm extremely fortunate, but I think that the minute that you get lost in the idea that that is your reality, then you're nuts. I mean, I'm fascinated that many people are interested in what I'm doing, and after 21 years in drag, it's an amazing opportunity. But I think that if you get lost in that, and I think there are a couple of the queens that are friends of mine that strive on that. They live off of that, like how many people follow us or who's doing this. My thing is just to work. You just got to keep going, and whether I have 102 people on Instagram is great, but I need to have at least 2,500 people in that theater. If not, nobody gets paid. So
you're
for me,
getting
that's
them though.
more of the challenge. It's still scary.
This is Scott. Well, I was going to ask you, what do you think has kind of led to this? Because I mean, there certainly were decades and decades of where the idea of selling out an arena or something like that for a drag show seemed absurd. Like, what has led to it all? Like, why now is this such a huge thing, which it is?
Well, I think that, first of all, drag in particular, Drag Race, and I mean, I have to give it props. Here's a television show that, 80% of the show you're out of drag. So I think it became a little more relatable for people. In the past, even the gay community hated drag. I mean, if you were a drag queen, nobody wanted to date you, nobody wanted to bother you. I mean, you were basically that freak. I mean, even people that knew that I was going on the show were like, well, she's not going to last a day because she's a cunt.
All hail the Queen Bianca Del Rio. And of course, if you haven't already, you must go to the movie theater and see Hurricane Bianca, written by the one and only Derek Hartley. And that brings us to the end of our Best of Ass Memorial Day special.
What a year. What a year for the ass.
It's been a great year, and I look forward to many, many more episodes. I want to really thank all of our listeners. All 5 of you are very special to me. No, I have to say, like, our listenership has really exploded, and it means a lot to me that people, because I know there's a million podcasts out there. So thank you for listening to this one. Tell your friends about it. Leave us your ratings and reviews on iTunes. And if you have ideas for the show, if you have someone that you think would be a great guest, email me at adam@adamsank.com. You can also contact me through the Adam Sank Show Facebook page. Follow me on Twitter at Adam Sank. Joey, how do people follow you?
Joey's Jam.
On Twitter and
Twitter
Insta.
and Insta, Facebook, just me.
And JB, we never ask you, how do people follow you?
Oh, wow. Okay, so I am an Instagram whore, so you can just follow me at StockingAnarchy12.
Stocking?
Stocking, yeah, like the stockings that you pull up on your legs. Yeah, that's stocking. Yeah, Stocking Anarchy 12.
We'll have to have a whole episode where we talk to you about what that name means.
Oh my God, it'll be super boring. It's only the last 5 minutes.
Well, thank you for all your hard work on the ass. I love you. I love you, Joey. I love all the listeners. Happy Memorial Day. Always.
Happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day, everyone. Yeah.